Hi everyone, welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to do a few things. We are going to develop the service layer and the repository layer. And we will also learn a few concepts related to implementing those layers, like dependency injection, what are beans, and how we can create a bean class. Then we are going to learn how to implement a RowMapper and a model mapper. We are going to go into the details as we progress with this lecture. So I have the code open from our previous session where we implemented multiple services, and then we implemented the controllers and endpoints in every service. So in this lecture, I am going to demonstrate how we can implement the DB layer, interact with the DB. And for that, I am going to use my course service as an example. And you can follow the same principle with your own code and learn how we can do all these DB CRUD operations. So let's start with creating some of the directories. So I have a controller here. I have model. I'm actually going to rename it to model service. Then I am going to create another folder called DTO and another folder with iRepository, and then another folder. Okay. So the first thing is we are going to create our model and DTO classes. So let's say for our course, we want three parameters: a course ID, a course name, and course credit. So when we talk about DTO and model, the difference between these are model could be internal to our code, and DTO object is what we receive in the request or what we return to the caller. So for example, if we talk about course, we have three properties, let's say course ID, course name, and credits. And let's say course ID is not used by the user. So when he sends a request, let's say he wants to add a new course to the DB, he will send a course name and credit. So my DTO object will have course name and credit. And let's say he does not want to know the course ID. And the course ID will be created by the system or my business logic. So then my model will have three things: course ID, course name, and credit. So that's how a DTO and model are different. Model can have more information or properties, and DTO has only that information which we want to show to the user. So let's say as we go, you might have more understanding. So I'm going to create a Java class and I will name it course DTO. And let's say in the DTO, I just want course name and credit. Okay. So this is my class. I am going to have a default constructor and a parameterized constructor. So and okay. Now I'm going to have some getter and setter functions. Let's say I am going to copy them okay. I am okay, let's say name it credit. I'm going to change these to credit. Okay. And that's it. Now I'm going to create a model class. Let's say I name it course.java. So now my model will have an extra property which will be a course ID. So let's say I have these three properties. I am going to have a default constructor and a parameterized constructor. Okay. So the parameterized constructor takes 3 arguments and we are assigning those to the class members. Then I will have setters and getters. So that's it. So my model class is done. I have all my setter and getter functions, 2 constructors, and we are done with the model and the DTO. Okay. Next, I am going to use MySQL for my DB implementation. So I have a few commands here. I'm going to create a course DB here, use it, and I'm going to create a table inside the course DB with 3 columns. Course ID, which is C underscore ID, C underscore name, and C underscore credit. And I am going to insert a few courses in the table. And when I select it, so I can see I have 4 courses with the credit and course ID in my table. Okay, fine. So my DB is done. Now let's go back to the code. And so when we talk about the microservices, we have a controller. Controller calls service. Service calls the repository layer. And then repository layer talks with the DB. That is the convention. So service is not going to talk to the DB, right? So the first thing we are going to implement is our repository layer. So let's go to my iRepository and create a interface. Let's say I name it I course 3.java, and I am going to have a method which return a list of courses. Okay. And I'm going to import list, and I'm going to import dot model. Okay, so my interface for the repository is done. Now inside my repository I'm going to implement this interface. So I go here and I'm going to create a class course repository.java, which is going to implement I course repository. So then I need to override this method. Okay. Right. So one of the things which I would like to mention here is that we get a DTO object in the request, or we return a DTO object, but in the service layer, we convert a DTO object to model object, and when we are returning, we convert a model object to a DTO object in the service layer, and that is done by the modelmapper class, which we are going to see in a while. So now here, what we want to do, we want to query, let's say, so let's start from course. Okay, this is one thing. Now we want to implement this using JDBC template. And I am going to name it JDBC template. And for that, I am going to import this. Now, because this dependency is not inside my POM XML, I am actually going to import a couple of my JDBC dependencies. So go to the POM, go to the dependency section and paste this. Okay. So now we will have JDBC as our dependency added to our project. Okay, next I'm going to save everything. Next, I'm going to have a constructor, and I'm going to inject this JDBC template in my class. Okay. Now, remember, when we are injecting an object, or which is called dependency injection, we are going to auto wire. Okay. This is going to inject JDBC template in our class. I would recommend you read about dependency injection and auto wired annotation to learn more about it. So this is going to give us the JDBC template. Next, we are going to go in my get all courses method, and I am going to declare a list of course as courses. Okay. And then I'm going to do a try catch, and inside this what I'm going to do is I'm going to query, and I'm going to send this query. Okay, now here, now when we do a query, it is going to return me some database rows. In this case, I'm going to get 4 rows from the database because my course table has 4 rows added. Now, that object which the database returns needs to be converted to my model object, which is course. But Java will not know how to do that conversion. And for that, we need to write something which will convert the database record set to my model object, right? Makes sense? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a class called course RowMapper.java, and which is going to implement the RowMapper interface. And we are doing this for the course class. And for that, I am going to import a RowMapper and my model. Okay. And then the RowMapper class has a function called mapRow, which needs to be overridden. So I'm going to take some code and then I'm going to explain it to you. Okay. So here, this function needs to be implemented, which is inside the RowMapper interface. This function has a result set and the row number. Result set gives us the result of the query. Now, in this case, when we are running and we are getting rows from the course table, we are actually going to get 3 columns. The name of the first column is C_ID, then C_name, and C_credit. How we are going to get those values? We ask the result set to get us course ID, and which is of type string. So we say result set dot get string and CID, and we save it in a string course ID. Similarly, we get course name and say that result set get a string because course name is a string type, and save it. Then for the third credit, C underscore credit, we say get int because credit is a integer value. So now we have all three values and we create a course object, which is our model object, and we return it. When we return it, so what actually Java do is it calls this function for every row fetched from the DB. And so we are going to create 4 course objects and which are going to be returned here, and we get a list of courses. Okay. So now the second parameter is going to be course row mapper. That's it. Okay. And we are going to import this row mapper inside our class. Courses dot repository and course row mapper is imported, and otherwise if there is an error we will just do something here. Let's say I am going to say okay, and I'm going to return null. Otherwise, if all goes well, I am going to return courses. Fine. So this is our implementation for get all courses. So now here what we did is we wrote a function, we created a query, we called JDBC template query, passed it the query, and then we created a course row mapper, which is going to map the record set into or result set into our model like this, and then we are able to create all the courses and we return the courses. So that's how we implemented our JDBC implementation into our repository layer. Okay. The other thing we did is we created the JDBC object and injected it in our class using the auto-wired annotation. Okay, next, what we are going to do is we need a few application properties to tell our application where my database is. So we are going to enter a few details. This is my database running on localhost on port this. You might have a different port, so you need to check it. And we want to connect with the course DB. I am just using the root. You can use some other user and its password. And then I am using JDBC driver. This should go in our application properties. Okay, next. So I'm done with the repository layer. Now we are going to go one level up and implement our service layer. So I'm going to go here and create a new class called course service dot Java. And here, what I'm going to do is implement a function get all courses. Now remember what I said, course service layer is actually going to return the DTO object. So the conversion between DTO to model actually happens in the service layer. So I'm actually returning DTO and not our model. And we are going to do a conversion from model to DTO here. Okay. Now we need an object of survey, my repository. So I am going to do I course repository, and I will call it course repository. I'm going to create a constructor and course repository dot okay, and I'm going to auto wire so that we are able to inject my repository object in my class. Okay, and I am going to import courses dot iRepository. Okay, what else? So now this is going to inject course repository in my class, and what I can do is I can just call dot get all courses, which is going to give me a list of courses. Okay, and let's just copy the import for course and Java util. Okay. Okay, now next, because we want to return the DTO and we have actually courses, which is our model, we need a conversion, as I said before. So for my conversion, I am actually going to use a model mapper. So I need another object in my class model mapper, and this should also go here. Right. Okay. And what I need is I need the dependency included in my POM for the model mapper. I'm going to add it here. Save it. It says to build it, rebuild. Okay, rebuild. And my model mapper should be coming soon. Next. So now I'm going to convert this model to a DTO. So I need a list of course DTO to be returned. Course DTOs. And I'm going to do a for loop on all courses which my repository layer sent me. Okay, courses. And for every course, I'm going to convert it using my model mapper class. And what I'm going to say is convert my course to a course DTO dot class. this is going to convert my course object C, we take it C here, to a DTO and return me the course DTO. And then I am actually going to add this course DTO to my course DTOs list. So for all the courses, what I'm doing, I'm using modelmapper to convert my model to a DTO class. Then the DTO object is added to the list of DTOs, and we are going to return course DTO. And this should work. Remove the errors. I need to import my model mapper. So let's do it here. Model mapper is added. Course DTOs. I need to include a DTO here. So I'll just copy this, paste it, DTO, and what I say is course DTO. And I think that should be, I did not initialize it, so I'm going to initialize it. Okay, and now my service layer is doing fine. Now one thing, we want to inject my repository in my service class. To inject a class into another class, that needs to be a bean class. So this means my repository class should be a bean class. Now what is a bean? Spring Bean. Spring Bean is a class which is managed by Spring Framework, its construction and its destruction. I would recommend that you go and read about bean, spring beans, and what they are. So to create a class, now let's go back to my repository. This is a normal class. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add repository and give it a name. I'm going to give it course repository. Save. Now this become a bean class. So to make it a bean class, either you can put an annotation called @bean, or then there are different annotations, because this is my repository layer, or this class is a repository. We are going to add a repository here. Similarly, when we go to my service, I'm again going to create it a bean class, and I'm going to say that this is a service type, and I'm going to give it a name, course service. So now my course service is also a bean. Similarly, if we go to my controller, there is already a REST controller, which makes it a bean class. So to make it a bean, to make any class a bean class, we can use @repository, @component, service, configuration, bean. There are a few annotations which can be used to make a certain class a bean class. Okay, so now we go back to here. I think this is looking fine. My course service is here. Oh, we need to make it public. Okay, now this is good. So my service layer implementation is done. Now, one more thing I need to do, implement the model mapper. So now we also want to inject model mapper inside this class. Now see, model mapper is not a bean class. So what we need to do is we need to take a little action so that Java is able to create an object of model mapper. Because this is not a bean class, Java won't be able to manage its construction, because when we want to inject something, the class has to be a bean class, then only Java will be able to construct that object and inject it. But because model mapper, Java won't be able to construct, so we need to construct it. How it is done? We create a configuration file. So let's go here and create a config directory, add a new Java application. Okay. And what we are going to do is we are going to create a bean here. And we are going to create a function which will actually create a model mapper. So when Java sees that this is a bean, it is going to call this function, and when it calls it, we are going to create a model mapper here and returning model mapper. So this way Java will have a model mapper object, and when it wants to inject this model mapper inside my service, it will already have a model mapper and it is going to inject it here. If you don't do this and you run your application, you can try, your application is going to crash saying that it did not find a bean for model mapper. So I recommend that you try it, remove this code, run your application. When the application is ready, and you are going to see a crash in your application. Okay, so I think my service layer is all good now. There is a warning. Constructor is never used. Okay, no problem. Okay. Now let's go to my controller. Here, we are going to do the same thing. We are going to create an object of my service class. So I'm going to say course service. And I'm going to create a constructor here, which is going to service. Okay. And I'm going to say auto wire. And just going to import it here. Service dot courses. So then this is going to inject my course service, and inside my get all courses, what I'm going to do is course service. I think my IntelliSense is not working. Something happened. Let's go to my course service and copy the exact name. Okay. And we are going to return it. And what it is going to return is a list of course video. and you just put the imports. It's not needed. And I think everything looks fine. We implemented model mapper. So I hope you were able to understand the role of model mapper. We implemented the model mapper inside our configuration, and to do a conversion between DTU and model, we write something like this. The model mapper is able to do a conversion between a DTU and model when the classes are simple. But if we want to do some custom thing, we can implement our own model mapper. So I think this is all. We can try to run and see if we are able to run and are able to fetch all the courses from the DB. So let's try. So we see that our application crashed and it said it is not able to find the bean model mapper in the course service. So we actually did not created this application class as a configuration class, which means it was not created as a bean class. And when it was not created as a bean class, so we were not able to create the model mapper. That's why our application was crashing. Let's run it again and see. Okay, our application is running. Let's see. So to get all courses, this is my endpoint. I am going to go in a browser and say, and I get all the courses. If I say petty print, then we get 4 rows. Okay, so that's how you are going to do some operations with the DB. So what we did is we implemented a repository layer. After that, we implemented the service layer, and then we implemented the controller. And that's how the flow went, and we were able to get data from the database. Let's say we want to do something else. Let's go back to our iRepository, and we want to write a couple more functions. Okay. So one is get course by ID, which is going to return on the one course when we provide it with the course ID. We want to do a course name by course ID, and we want to add a new course. Now we are going to implement these functions in our repository implementation. So let's go to repository and implement all these methods one by one. So the first one we want to do is get course by ID. So instead of multiple courses, this method is actually going to do just one course. So here we were returning list of courses. Here we are actually returning just one course. Now when we do this kind of thing where I am actually getting only one row, my query will look something like this. Start from course where CID is equal to this. Okay. Now let's do a try catch. Okay. And inside this, I am just using the JDBC template and do a, instead of query, I am going to query for object. And the first parameter is SQL. Second parameter is again our course RowMapper, which we implemented. And the third one is the value of course ID, which we are getting as a parameter. That's it. And this is actually going to return a course. And we will return it. Okay. And if we get an exception, so we will say error fetching course for course ID, plus message. Okay, and then we are going to return null. And if we get a course, we are going to return from here. So this is the method which is going to get a course using the course ID. Next, we want to do a course name by ID. So let's implement this. And we'll say override. Again, the query is going to be something like this. Select course name from course where course ID is something. And I'm just going to quickly do it. And here I'm just going to JDBC template dot query for object, again MySQL. Now here I'm not going to use the course RowMapper because we are just getting a string back. So what I am going to say is, that's it. And third parameter is course ID. So this course ID is going to go in the place of this. And when the query goes, we said that the return is actually a string class and not a complex object like a model object. So we are going to get a course name. And we are going to return course name. And if there is an exception, then this, and we are going to return an empty string or a null. So that's it. And this should be a public member. Right. Now we also want to add a course, let's say. So The method is add course. Now here what we want to do is, this is a little extra work, because when we get the model from DTO, DTO has only course name and credits, and our system or the DB layer would create a course ID. So in my DB, if you see, we have C101, 102, 103, 104. What we want to do is, we want C105, which means total number of rows plus 1 plus 100, and we prepend with a C, right? So the logic is going to be something like this. Although this is a easy logic, you can implement it in your way. I am doing it like this. So I need number of rows in my DB. So for that, I need a helper function, which is going to return number of rows in the, so get rows count, and I am going to do this query, select count star course. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just return JDBC template dot query for object, and my query is this, and what I am going to return is just an integer value, which is, in this case, I'm going to get 4. So integer dot class. That's it. I'm not going to put a try catch here just to save time. Now here what I'm going to do is call this method get course count. I'm going to get 4, and I'm going to create a course ID, which will be appended with C plus count plus 100 plus 1. So what we are going to get is, this will be 4 plus 100, 104 plus 1, 105, and prepend with C. So we get C105, and we are going to get a new row with course ID as 105. Okay, so this is all good. In my model, I'm not getting my course ID, so I say set course ID, this is done. Now let's write a query, is insert into course CID, comma, C name, comma, C credit, values, question, comma, question, comma, question. That's it. And okay, now just call JDBC template dot update and pass it the query. Second, for these 3 question marks, we need to pass the values. So for course ID, I am going to pass course dot get course ID, course dot second one is course name, get course name, and third is dot get credit, and that's it. And I'm going to just return the same course, that we were able to successfully insert this into the DB. Although you can just avoid returning anything, and you can have a try catch in the error. You can say error adding this course, something like that. I'm just leaving it here to save time. Okay, so I have all these methods. Now I'm going to go one level up in my service class and going to implement all these methods. So let's go to my service and implement one by one. So now in the service, we are going to return a DTO, not a model. Course DTO get course by ID, and I'm getting a course ID. And what I'm going to do is I am going to call course repository that get course by ID, and I'm just doing this. It is going to return a course, and what I need to do is convert this course into a course DTO using the model mapper. So model mapper dot map course to my course DTO dot class. This is the mapping done, and fetch it in the course DTO and then return the DTO. All good? Nice. Next, public string get course name by ID, string course ID, and we are going to call get course name by ID and just return it, because there is no conversion required. It is already returning a string, and we are returning the string. That's it. Next, add course, public course DTO, add course. We are actually getting a DTO here. And okay, so now what we need to do is convert the DTO into a model. So course model mapper dot map. Now in this case, what we are going to do is course DTO to a model class, right? And then pass this model to our repository. Add course. That's it. And return the same DTO which we got. Why I'm returning this? Because if it's successful, I just want to show the user same DTO that I was able to add this course. You can avoid this. You can return void. It's not necessary. You can just return a 200 status in your controller to say that the call was successful. So it's up to you. Okay, I was able to do all these. Let's go one level up in my controller and add all these endpoints. So this one is get course. I will say get course by ID, and here I will get course ID. This is course ID. Remove it and just return course service that course get course by ID. That's it. And then point is courses, course ID. Next, I need a get course name by ID, and it's path is course, let's say course name, and then course ID. Okay, course ID, remove this and return service dot get course name by ID. That's it. So the endpoint is not this, course name and course ID. Now last one, add course. So that is going to be a post mapping. Okay, and let's say our path is course, public course, because it returns course DTO, and add course takes a course DTO, right? And here what we are going to do is we are going to say a request body, request body. Okay, and then nothing, just call service dot add course DTO. That's it. So the controller layer is ready. Get course name. This should be course DTO. All good. Okay. Now let's run it. Run Java. 1 minute. I think this should be path variable, not request param. Save it, run again. And go to the browser. So what we want to do, let's say we want to get the course by course ID. So oh, okay, this is a little, this is not right. Okay, we will make it correct in the browser. Okay, so we go here and then courses, then what's the endpoint? Courses. Okay, I think this is not right. Let's fix it. Course and course ID and courses, then this is courses and course name. Okay, and then course ID, and then this is course. Okay, let's run. So the first one I'm going to run is get course by course ID. So this one, and I will say C101, and I get the course which has course ID C101, right? Let's see another one. Okay, so there is some problem. For the credit, I am getting a 0 all the time. Something is not right. Let's see what the problem is. Okay, so we are getting the credit correctly. The problem was when model mapper does a conversion between a DTO and model, both the classes should have the members with the same name. So then only it is able to map. So here we have course name in my model, and in the DTO we have course name. But the problem was here it was credit and it was credits. So it was not able to match these variables. And so when it was transferring, credit was not matching, so it was coming out to be 0. So you have to make sure that between model and DTO, your member names should match. Okay, now going back to get course by ID, we get this, right? Let's test the last one. Get course name by course ID. So C101. Okay, it did not like something. So, oh, okay. So the endpoint is actually courses. After that, course name. So courses, then course and data structure. Right? All good. Now for the last part, adding the course, which is important. So a couple of things. The first one is, let's go into my repository class. No, actually DTO class. In the DTO, although my class member name is this, but we need to let the user know what the name they should be using. For instance, let's see. So to add, what we need is a HTTP client. You can install this extension, and what I'm going to do is HTTP localhost and then course, and this is a post request. Okay, now I'm going to pass a JSON, and I am going to say content type is JSON. Okay, and here now I need to pass parameters. How do the user know what the name of the parameter is? Because inside the class the name is underscore course name. I don't want to show what my internal name is. So to do that, I am going to give it a JSON property name. I will say this and make it small. You can keep it anything, but you need to let the user who is calling your service exactly the name they should be using. Okay, so credits or credit, whatever. Okay, now what they are going to do is they are going to use it like this: course name, microservices, and credits. Let's say 4. Now my request is ready. Let's run, save everything. Okay, and run it. So you need to make sure that you apply JSON property on the DTO objects, because the DTO objects come from the user. Inside that, the model, it's our code. You don't need anything like that in Java. Okay. I'm going to send. Okay, I got a response which says not found. So it says course not found. Why? Because we did not use the right endpoint. So my endpoint is courses, and then inside that I have a course for add course. So let's correct it. Courses. Okay, looks good. I'm actually going to okay, let's run it first. Okay, so response, I get a status code 200, which means this service was this course was added. Let's go in our DB and see. So let's start from this, and we have another course added. Oops. Okay, there is a problem here. Something is not right. Let's see what the course ID we are creating. So let's go quickly in the repository layer and go into the add course. So we get the course count, see, and the count we must be getting 4, and then 100, and then 1. Okay, so this should be like this. Oops. First we add this and then prepend it with a C. Let's try it again. And the request. Let's add some another course, microservices application. Okay, let's go in the DB and see. Okay, this time it was good. Right, so let me delete this row and delete this row. Apply, finish. Okay, let's try again. Microservices, send, all good, it was added. Let's see. Wonderful. So I think that is it for today's lecture. We were able to implement multiple endpoints. We see how to do a post mapping, get mapping, inserting in the DB, getting from the DB. So you should be able to follow this lecture and implement your own controllers and service and repository layers. I'm going to end this session here, and I will see you in my next session where we are going to make progress with the application and add more features. Until then, bye for now, and I will see you again soon. Thanks.